Okay, yeah, so it's just going to ask you if it can record. I just want to one more setting that I'm just waiting for to finish. It's still setting it up. Okay, good. Okay, so you get ready. And let me introduce you. I'm just going to do a short introduction. I think people will get to know you, who you are. Hello, everyone. This is Kobus Visser speaking. Kobus with a C. It's all about whatever it takes, living without regret. And yeah, we're blessed here today with having someone special. You know, someone that is inspiring, someone that is taking the opportunities that is given his way. Today we have Vuyo Wakaba. Vuyo, I hope I sort of pronounced that correctly. And, you know, but before we get to it, thank you for that, is, you know, Vuyo, me and my delicious English, has an amazing story to tell. Now, I'm not here to read his whole bio. I'm here to just discuss with you. You know, you've lived life and you've come from a part of where you had a dream, and that's what I'm about. It's about people chasing their dreams and making it a reality. So quickly, tell us, you know, where did you grow up and where did you start life?
All right. Well, I grew up in Bloemfontein. You know, my closest, or my most fond memories come from there, as you know, that's where I went to school. That's where I did just about everything until I actually got into the airlines. My dad still lives there. My mom is late now. She passed away a few months ago. But, you know, until then, I'd go down to Bloemfontein, as regularly as I could to visit. So I still spend a fairly large amount of time down there, not as much time as I'd like, but whenever I get some time off, I head down there. As far as my experiences of growing up, I grew up in a very Christian-oriented community where I went to a Christian school. I grew up, in church. My father is a retired religious minister. He was the leader of the Seventh-day Adventist denomination in South Africa for a time. My mom comes from a financial background, and she worked with the same organization throughout her life. And so what I found was that as I was growing up, I had lots of deposits from various people in terms of the wisdom that I was able to garner from them, in terms of the way they were actually able to help guide and mold me along the way. What they taught me was the importance of being able to take interest in other people, but more than anything else, they taught me about service, what it actually means to serve. Because what I actually discovered along the way as I was growing up is the fact that many of the things that sometimes didn't make sense when I was a lot younger make a lot of sense today as I'm older, because I learned the concepts of leadership, and I learned the concepts of being able to develop oneself in terms of the way you see the world through those experiences and through the people that I actually got to interact with. And so I can't really point to only one key mentor that I've had over the course of my life. My parents have played a central role in my life, and my father, being still alive, continues to do so. But at the same time, I can honestly say that as far as my mom and dad were concerned, as I was growing up there, they were very good at being able to cultivate within me the spirit of hard work and determination. They kept me accountable in terms of what I did and how I achieved my goals. My teachers were the ones that oftentimes taught me the necessity of setting goals, and that those goals were achievable. And there are too many teachers to mention in terms of the positive impact that they've had on my life. But I can honestly tell you that I've been lucky in the sense that I've had phenomenal teachers. And, some of them will be watching this program, and they know who they are. I want to mention them all by name, but unfortunately the show is too short. But I'm a deeply, deeply grateful individual, because I grew up with loving parents. I come from a loving family of 5 siblings, and I grew up in an environment of teachers, church parishioners, neighbors, who actually all played a critical role in making me who I am today.
So you say you have 5 siblings. Just quickly and short, are you the oldest, middle,
I'm
and the youngest?
Yeah, I'm the Lot Lameki. So
Oh, the one
yeah,
that that was spoiled and got away with everything. Ah, you
precisely.
see, that's why the luck favors the young, they say.
Yeah,
But one thing that I love about you, I love the Free State, Free State,
yeah,
especially Bloemfontein. They say everything that is good of this country comes from Bloemfontein, from
yes.
some of our leaders, so even some of our best sport stars come from Bloemfontein. And I was like, there's something in the water in Bloemfontein. But what school did you go to, just for interest's sake?
I went to a small school that's just outside Bloemfontein. It was the Bloemfontein Christian School that I went to over the course of my time there. And, what the school was really good with was in being able to develop leadership ethic. I was fortunate to serve as head boy of the school twice over the course of my schooling career. And, what I found over those experiences was the fact that and as far as learning how to lead, it's something that you're not necessarily born into. It's something that you're actually built into. You're made over time. And so you do have to encounter, you find yourself initially encountering failure at times, and it requires a lot of resilience along the way. But what I found as time went by was the necessity of being able to understand the people that I'm leading and better relate to them, and the necessity of being able to see the problems and the challenges that I encounter as opportunities to develop deep and lasting relationships with the people that I interact with. And so I approach life today from that particular vantage point, and that's why it played such a central role in my life.
Yeah, I think a few things that comes out really is that the importance of family for me,
Yes.
and having that family environment. And I think that is one thing that is missing in South Africa today. With that some kids are growing up with a father figure or a mother figure, someone that they can look up to. But I also think, what's one thing that is important is, the importance of having goals. Apart from having mentors, mentors and teachers, and those will come on your path. I think the first thing is, it comes to goals, a vision. What is it you want in the end of the day? And that forms us, and that allows us to grow, because it's creating that growth mindset. Because like you said, resilience and perseverance, and growing as a leader, because a leader is not really born. A leader is made through trials and tribulations and moments. So, and it's amazing to see that, where you come from. But
No,
somewhere something happened. Sorry, say again.
thank you very much. I appreciate it.
I think somewhere something happened that
Mm-hmm.
you got this grand vision. Because
Yeah.
let's be honest, maybe growing up in Bloemfontein, one can have all of these excuses. Would have played a role of comparing to where you ended up basically today, and where you are today. So tell us a little bit about what shaped you to become the person that you are today.
You know what? I've been very fortunate in the sense that the life that I have today is a manifestation of the visions that I've had probably from the time I was around 5 years old. At the end of the day, from the time I was about 4 or 5 years old, I developed an interest in the sky and what's in it. And it didn't stop. I mean, I used to watch clouds, and I used to watch airplanes and helicopters flying over the house. And I used to, get onto airplane jungle gyms. And by the time I was 8, I decided that this was something that I was going to do and pursue. What I would say is the fact that, I learned from a very early age that you've got to have goals in your life, and you've got to stick to those goals irrespective of the challenges that you end up facing. But what drove me into my particular field, which is aviation, was a passion for that particular industry and a passion for all things that fly. And that passion never left me. It's still with me today. However, what I picked up from a very early age was the necessity of being true to who you are and to the destiny that actually lies within your heart. And destiny doesn't necessarily mean what is inevitable. It means what is possible. At least that's my interpretation of it. And so everybody's destined for something great. But in as much as we're all destined for great things, what's important is to be able to internalize that and to be able to conduct yourself on a day-to-day basis that is consistent with where you want to be and with what the broad outcome of your life is. Today, I'm a pilot flying for an airline, but I do have other dreams now, and I've got new dreams that I'm working on every day. However, it's important to note that the way our lives oftentimes turn out is oftentimes very consistent with the reinforcement we actually build into our minds on a day-to-day basis, and how we reinforce our behaviors and our characters. There's a saying that says, be careful what you say, or be careful what you think, rather, for thoughts become words. Be careful what you say, for words become actions. Be careful what you do, for what you do becomes a habit. Be careful of your habits, for what you do forms your character. Be careful of your character, for who you are ultimately becomes your identity. And so
it becomes your destiny. I want to jump in there. That is my quote that I live by. That is by Mahatma Gandhi. That is the philosophy, the foundation of my life, is that. So it's amazing to hear you say that as well. Awesome. Yes, go on.
And so, at the end of the day, it's all well and good to have a goal in terms of what you want to do in terms of your occupation. But it's important to look at your life as being bigger than that, and to be able to view your life in terms of a much broader picture, and be able to look at the different aspects of your life and orient your life in that desired direction. Because ultimately, what you do is only one part of it. It's only one part of who you are. It's only one part of what your goals may be, or where you may be headed in life. And my being a pilot is wonderful, but it's only one aspect of my identity, and only one aspect of my destiny. It's not everything.
Yeah, it's basically, once you've reached a goal, is then setting new goals that are becoming bigger and grandiose. And one thing that I pick up what you're just saying is, one, it needs to be a necessity. It shouldn't just be a pie in the sky. It really becomes, I want to do this, and I'm willing to do whatever it takes to make it happen. I think the secondary is the willing to change your beliefs, your thoughts, your words, and speak it. It's life and death is in that tongue. The more you speak it, the more it can become a reality. Just giving you an idea. I went from being in a wheelchair to climbing Kilimanjaro with my crutches, because of mindset, because of beliefs and all of this, and saying, I'm creating a new destiny, no matter how impossible it looks. And I think, and getting to it, you become a pilot, tell me, it's not cheap, first and foremost. No. It's not easy. You have to pass physical and health and all of that, so you have to be lucky, because you said it earlier, you had that luck, but luck can be created. So tell me quickly, now you had this dream, you want to become pilot. How easy was that journey, or how challenging it was? Because in a sense, it made you the pilot that you are today, those challenges.
To support your earlier statement before answering your question, my mother, before she passed away, had to learn how to walk at least 3 times just before she died. The first time was where a tumor was discovered right next to her spine that nearly rendered her paralyzed, which had to be operated on immediately, and she had to learn to walk from that in her 70s. The second time around, she had to learn to walk after another surgery, and the third time around, she fractured her hip and had to learn to walk again a year before she died. And each time she learned how to walk, and each time she managed to get rid of her walker. So at the end of the day, the mental strength that I developed really comes from her, in the sense that she's probably the most resilient human being I've ever met. But coming down to the difficulties of becoming a pilot, and coming down to the fact that you've got to create your own luck, and the challenges and obstacles faced and how to overcome them. Yes, it is difficult. I certainly struggled, in the sense that I actually took an eye test about a year before I got into flight school, and I found that my eyes probably weren't going to meet the required standard to start flight training. But fortunately, through lots of exercise, I managed to get my eyes right after about a year, and I've passed every physical since then. My last physical, my eyes didn't do so well, but that's because I spent, a lot of time reading up close, and spent, with flat screen computers and so on. So the vision isn't as sharp as I'd like it to be. But, in terms of overcoming a lot of the obstacles along the way, what I found was that a very, very important tool in one's arsenal in being able to do that is in one's ability to form relationships with other people, and being able to leverage those relationships. Stephen Covey talks about the different levels of dependence. You've got your dependence, you've got your independence, and your interdependence. And your interdependence is really a force multiplier if you think about it in terms of what you're actually able to achieve and in terms of the way that you're able to achieve your objectives. So what I found is that, being able to establish relationships with people, being able to identify areas where you can learn from people, but also being open enough to being able to tell people what your goals are and what your vision is, can be very helpful in terms of ensuring that particular goal or vision materializes. Something that happened to me was the fact that I was fairly open about the fact that I wanted to fly from a young age. I wouldn't necessarily tell people to tell the whole world what your goals and visions are, because there's a danger in that. Be careful to whom you tell your dreams. There's the story of Jacob, who told his dreams to his siblings and his father, and he was, ultimately at one point, his brothers basically, upon encountering him, said, "Behold, the dreamer comes. Come now, therefore, let us kill him and throw him into a pit and say that a wild beast hath destroyed him." So it's important to think about the fact that you've got to be careful as to who you tell your dreams, but you've also got to have a sense as to who can be a reliable ally and who can actually help facilitate those dreams. And for me, where I was very lucky was the fact that while I was at university, I was reading through a book on occupations, and one of them was flying. And I thought to myself, wait a second, I'll only live once. This is actually what I want to do. This is really what I want to do. And I remember going home that evening, and my mom, upon seeing me, saying, "Vuyo, I got a phone call from somebody who used to be the receptionist in your school. Her name was Jacqueline DuPont. She may be watching as well. She has an uncle who flies out of New Tempe Airport, and he'd like to contact you." So I contacted her uncle, Simon Sykes, and he advised me that there was the owner of the school at the time, that was Les Daly and Andrew Scholes, who's now late, who discussed me and who were looking at ways of being able to sponsor my flying. And he advised me to really strike while the iron was hot, which I did, and I found myself learning to fly the following year. The point that I'm trying to make here is the fact that you honestly never know what you can actually achieve if you're willing to find ways of being able to provide to provide for the needs of others, but at the same time to also understand how other people can provide for your needs as well. There's got to be an interdependence in the way you actually deal with people, and there's got to be a genuine desire from your side to add value to their lives, as well as an understanding that they themselves can add value to yours. It might not necessarily be material value, but that value can come in the form of what they can teach you. It can come in the form of what you can hear. It can come in the form of some of the relationships that they can leverage on your behalf. And that's what I learned at a very, very early age. And I was very fortunate to get that lesson at that time.
I think one thing that stood also out for me, you say you shouldn't share your dreams with anyone. And I totally agree with that. But you should share your dreams with the right people.
Yes.
And you have to have that discernment of sharing it with the right people, because sharing it with the right people will open the doors and those dreams will come true. Because certain people want to hold on to their dreams, and now, because I can't share it with everyone, and then it never comes true. And they're like, why not? Is this because you didn't share it with the right people? But then you get those who share it with everyone, and then they're like, oh, why is it not happening? It's because you shared it with the wrong people. There's people that don't believe in your dreams. I remember when I shared that I'm going to climb Kili, there was people saying that because it's not possible. And yes, I had to let those people go and surround myself with people that, yes, it is possible. And I think, and that is amazing to hear, for those that is listening to this, is to say, that, wow, if you are persistent and you keep holding on to that dream, we've been created in a society where we want instant results. We want it now. But just hearing you had to wait a year to strengthen your eyes because it wasn't right. So it's a year. Then you had to basically another year before you could start flying, basically, because of things that had to happen. And then you had to fly and learn to fly. And, that wasn't probably, how long was that process? That was 2 or 3 years probably before
That
you
was.
started,
That,
so,
that,
yes?
yes.
Yeah,
No,
so.
it really was. Really was. Sorry to break your word there. It really was what was several years, because if I look at the fact that before my mom got the phone call from Jacqueline Dupont, who's recently got married, I believe. So I'm not sure what his surname is currently. But before my mom got that call, there was a process that already got started a few years before that, in the sense that I got to meet a few people, and I already got to establish relationships before that. And literally about 4 years after the fact of meeting the right people in the beginning, asking certain questions, and beginning a mentorship relationship with people in the industry, I eventually found myself in the industry. So you've got to be patient. You've got to continuously believe in that dream and water it, because those dreams are possible. I mean, people like to say that your dreams are valid. Yes, that is true. But at the end of the day, and as much as your dreams are valid, it's extremely important not only for you to affirm those dreams to yourself, but it's important for you to understand where you are in terms of those dreams, understand the work component that's required for those dreams. Surround yourself with people that keep you accountable in terms of the steps that you need to take in realizing those dreams, and ensure that you've got the mentorship and the guidance that you need to in order to realize them. Because we really, in this country, I believe, we underestimate the necessity for mentorship, and we underestimate how important it is to have sponsors and people who've gone ahead of you, who can actually provide you with with not only their connections that can help you along the way, but with their wisdom in terms of the road that you've taken on. And what's made my career fairly unique is the fact that even before I started flying, I already had mentors in place. Even, before I got into the airlines, there were people who were advocating on my behalf. I think of Les Daly, I think of Charlie Murray. And the reason why those two names come out in as far as my flying career, is because they were the ones that initially sowed the seeds in so many people's minds, that basically said, you know what, this is a comer. This is somebody to watch out for. This guy's got a very bright future ahead of him. You've got to get behind him. And they made my transition from flight school into the airlines so much easier. And I found that, in every single job interview I found myself in, following my training, following my qualification as a pilot, their names always came up. And people always asked me about how they were doing, or if I was in touch with them and what they were up to. So it played a huge role in my ability to actually develop my career to where it is today, and my drive to continue to further my career, or to push it as far as it can go.
I think that is powerful. It comes down to, again, relationships, mentorship, going to people and sharing your passion with them, and not expecting something in return, but go and learn and ask questions from those who are succeeding and modeling them. You just spoke about the strength of your mom and how she became someone to model. The guys that taught you how to fly, even today, your dad is for you someone that you look up to. And
very much.
And that is where the power lies. And I think for those, people that don't probably have their parents anymore, that have grown up, is to find people, mentors that can mentor you in your way. Because like you said, they have the wisdom of telling you where the potholes is in the road, so that you don't drive through those potholes, so that you can get to the destination so much faster. Now, here's a question. And as we come towards today, that's your journey. You became a pilot, and here's the thing, life is not always as it seems, and there's going to be challenges. So you started flying, and there was some challenges in flying. When you started, was there, because you're the young guy, you're coming from Bloemfontein, was that part of the process of getting into this culture of pilots?
It was very much so. In fact, I learned to fly in Bloemfontein. So one of the reasons why Bloemfontein has such a special place in my heart. You've got to understand that when I started flying, even before I started flying, I used to go to air shows. every year. My siblings would take me to air shows when they couldn't. My mom and dad used to take me to air shows, which really amazes me, when I think about it today, because my parents did not have the faintest interest in flying, airplanes or anything to do with the sky. But whenever air show season would come around, and I remember one year my dad actually asked me, look, Vuyo, you want to go to the air show? And I was shocked. I mean, he's asking me if I want to go to the air show. And I mean, this is somebody that's not even interested in this stuff. So I was like, yeah, I want to go. And, my parents and I agreed to go to the air show, the next day. And so I got to the air show. And, my parents sat in the car and, they watched the airplanes. They let me chat with the pilots, et cetera, et cetera. But, what I sort of found was that, over the years that I was attending those air shows, I was usually the only Black person in attendance among thousands of people, which looked a bit odd. And it might not necessarily appear odd, but at that time did look odd in the sense that people would actually basically ask me, look, what are you doing here? And one year there was a pilot, and this is one of the great regrets of my life, is that I never got his surname. His name was Neil. And he was participating in an air show, and he walked up to me. I didn't even walk up to him. I didn't know him from a bar of soap. And he walked up to me one day and he asked me basically, what are you doing here? And I said, I want to become a pilot. And he said, well, does your father fly? And I said, no. Oh, well, you've got to meet Les Daly. You've got to have a conversation with him. And he introduced me. And that's actually how things changed. But in terms of the differences that I had to encounter in flight school, oftentimes, whenever I'd walk into an airplane, people would stop, every car that was driving past would literally stop moving, and everybody would stop what they were doing so that they could actually see whether or not I was going to start the airplane. And once the airplane got started, everything continued to stop to actually see if I was going to taxi it. And nothing at the airport moved until that airplane took off. And that was because at that time, people weren't used to seeing somebody that looked a little bit different at the time flying. It wasn't, don't get me wrong, it wasn't racist or anything like that. It was just people being accustomed to things being done a certain way by certain people. And yes. I was challenging that. And so that's actually what stopped it all. So I wouldn't, so at the end of the day, we're oftentimes conditioned to believe that things will take place on the terms that we expect they would. And when things are a little bit different or something a little bit unusual happens, it sometimes destabilizes us a little bit. And what I found when I was qualifying as a pilot over that period of time, and even when I became an instructor, was that people would actually literally stop what they were doing to actually see if this was really going to happen. And every single time it happened, and every single time the airplane landed, and every single time I got out of the airplane, and people would only start moving, going about their business after I landed. But, but the point that I'm trying to sort of add to that is that was, what I had to go through. But as I say, once again, as people, we tend to be very conditioned and, by the environment that we grew up in, the families that we grow into, the circumstances that we deal with. And we end up being handed a script that's written for us, and we live our lives according to that script without the realization of the fact that I can write a new script for myself, and I can live according to a new script. And I can alter my expectations of what the exterior world should look like and should actually behave.
Wow. And that's powerful and beautiful said. And it's amazing that, you had to break so many boundaries and comfort zones for people to excel. And I think that's the one thing is you were just so focused on your vision and your goal.
Yes.
It doesn't matter to worry about other people, because what impact does it make on you instead of focusing on your dream and where you want to be?
Yes.
So tell me, how was it your first time to fly in one of these big planes? I don't know all of these plane sizes, but one of these, big jets, or is it a jet, or what do you call it, Boeings?
To be honest with you, it was amazing. It was awesome. But I'll be honest with you, I don't remember the date I actually flew a Boeing for the first time. I vaguely remember the date I got my first flight on an Airbus A340 to Washington, D.C. on. I know it was sometime in December of 2011, but I have a hard time remembering the date. But I do remember the first day I went solo. That was the 8th of February, 2005. I do remember the first time I flew a King Air, which is a multi-turbine engine, basically a 10-seater airplane. It was a Friday afternoon. I was flying down to Kimberley, and I was on a transition program, to get into SS Express as a first officer. And I remember conducting the takeoff and just the exhilaration of getting off the ground. And I can't believe that I'm actually flying this thing. It's incredible. I mean, it was out of this world. I remember flying down to Kimberley at 24,000 feet and just absolutely marveling at everything around me and just thinking, wow, you've made it. You've arrived. That was an awesome feeling, and that was an awesome experience. While it was a goal of mine to fly, big jets and to fly Boeings and Airbuses, et cetera, I sort of find that by the time I started flying multi-engine jet airplanes, my mindset had already transitioned to something else, and my expectations had already transitioned. And I found that a lot of the lessons that I'd learned in the earliest part of my life suddenly became really, really valid and really serious, in the sense that I grew up in a home where I learned a lot about the necessity for organization and organizational development, et cetera, et cetera. And that's probably where my mind actually eventually started moving towards, where I developed less of an interest in the airplane that I was flying, and I developed more interest in the people I was with, and more interest in the organization I was working for, and more interest in just making sure that I could do my part, as modest as it was, in ensuring that my organization was a winner, and my organization would be able to succeed at whatever it needed to do. And so I saw myself as being more of a member of the team, as opposed to just being Vuyo.
Amazing. And I think this is what is shaping you. For us, it's the storms that makes the best sailor. And a lot of storms have made you the person you are. It's not even flying anymore. It's so much bigger. Now with COVID and everything, you flew for Fly SA Express, they closed down. Now you flew for for SAA with all of the drama. How have you kept focused? Because as a pilot, that's your career, that's your job. How's that keeping you focused now to have to keep on shifting and the impact the world has been doing? And so basically now.
Well, the first thing that you need to remember and understand, and this is something that 99.9% of people that interact with me don't know about me, is the fact that I don't see flying airplanes or piloting as the totality of my career. And I don't see it as the totality of my identity. And so I tend to view my career more holistically, in the sense that I'm a member of the aviation community or the aviation fraternity in this country. And so aviators don't have to be pilots. They can be air traffic controllers. They can be managers. They can be a whole range of professionals. And so my interest at that particular time was in making sure that I could use the chaos that was actually taking place and unfolding around me to develop myself more holistically as a person. During that time, I took on a postgraduate degree, and so that gave me a bit of time to do that. It also gave me a bit of time to take on more administrative tasks relating to an organization that I work for, volunteer for, and called the South African Airways Pilots Association. And it helped to develop my skill set, or deepen the skills that I already had at that particular point in time. And so what I found was that the entire experience for me was a growth experience, because it made me more conscious of myself and more self-aware. It certainly made sure that I was able to understand, I think, the blindness with which I conducted certain aspects of my life, and my determination in being able to overcome that blindness and being able to help those around me become a little bit more aware of, being a little bit more aware of themselves and where they are in the world. Yes, I got an academic qualification at the end of it, but what I found was that more than anything else, I developed a better sense of myself as a human being, my leadership style. And I certainly developed myself in the sense that I reinforced, I reinforced the belief that I'm a lot more than a pilot. I reinforced the fact that I'm a lot more capable than, than flying airplanes. I'm capable of doing a wide range of things. Pilots are very capable people. We're all multi-talented, and flying is something that we're all drawn to because that's our passion. And you'll find that, oftentimes, when you interact with pilots and you actually get to hang out with them and you get to know them, we're a group of people that are very driven. We're a group of people that are very intelligent and are the types that would have been able to excel at just about anything. I mean, you'll find that many pilots would have been just as good as engineers or doctors or lawyers, et cetera, and something that the COVID experience did for me and the business rescue experience did for me was to reinforce the fact that I'd have probably been as successful elsewhere as I am right now. But I'm very fortunate to be able to live my passion. And I'm very fortunate to be in a position where I can actually make conscious choices that will actually guide my steps moving forward.
And I think that's what I love about it, is that, and this is a lesson for those who are listening to this, is that the importance of continuous growth.
Yes.
It's not just now I've become an engineer or I've become a pilot, okay, now I'm living it. It's that continuous growth, because life is going to happen, and you need to acquire more skills. Because in our conversation, I sort of heard you love reading books. You mentioned Kavi, you've mentioned the quote by Gandhi. So you are a person for knowledge and looking for knowledge, because I even see you're busy studying your MBA, through Henley Business School. So you're on that continuous growth. It's not like pilot's the end of all. Yes, it was a dream, but it's become the vehicle to create whatever the next dreams are for you. Am I right?
Absolutely. Look, in terms of my desire for learning, I make a point of reading on average about 2 to 3 books a week. And I, in addition to the fact that I study, and in addition to the fact that I seek to find other ways of being able to develop myself. Yes, it comes at a cost, because I don't get as many sleeping hours as I'd like to. And it means that I don't get to watch as much television as many people would, or I don't know what's on. I've got an entire DSTV suite, that I've never watched. I've never really made the time to sit alone with my remote control and actually watch the channels that I pay for on a monthly basis. I don't watch all the movies that I get to watch on Netflix or Showmax, even though I've got the facility to do so. And I don't get to meet my friends as often or go out as much as I'd like to. So there definitely is a price to pay for all of that. But what you're actually able to get out of it, in my mind, is worth so much more than the short-term, gains that can sometimes be made by a pleasure-centric, type life. And so learning for me, or continuous development, is extremely, extremely important. But part of why I'm so relentless about learning, especially at this point in my life, is because I believe that I'm at the place in my career where my vision and my focus cannot only be about myself. It's got to include other people, and being able to serve other people better and more effectively requires me to develop myself. Yes. Being able to develop myself and being able to ensure that I can continuously serve better as time goes by, and continue to make myself relevant as change occurs in the environment and as needs may require, from time to time. I think that everybody, irrespective of whether you're living your dream in your dream job or whether you're still aspiring to getting there, has different phases of development. And for me, right now, this particular point in my life is about developing my conceptual thinking abilities and being able to develop my strategic planning and implementation skills. I was fortunate enough to have opportunities at the early part of my life to realize that there are certain things that I'm good at. Being able to make head boy in school does a lot for you in terms of your confidence as a leader and in terms of the confidence as a communicator. And that stays with you for the rest of your life. At least I believe it does. And it certainly, has for me. However, along the way, I also had the opportunity of being able to be granted very difficult assignments. When I was at Westline Aviation, I had the opportunity of managing the flight operations there. And that entailed, managing the day-to-day running of the airport. So you're managing a facility that's worth hundreds of millions of rands and making sure that, everything is sort of able to go through on a day-to-day basis. And, when you're that young, that's an enormous amount of responsibility, but it builds you, and it already sets the stage for your life in terms of getting to understand the fact that, where you peg your own potential is not always congruent with where your potential really lies. And that's sometimes the mistake that we make. We rely too much on other people to tell us what our potential is, or on ourselves to tell us what we're good enough for, without really realizing the fact that all of us are to a large degree endowed with the same potential. But at the end of the day, that potential only comes out when we face different challenging situations. In some areas, I will fail where you may succeed, and in some areas, I may succeed where you fail. But at the end of the day, we don't fully understand the potential and the talent that we're given until we're in a position where we can test ourselves and place ourselves in uncomfortable positions, or uncomfortable enough positions, that actually allow us to become exposed to what those talents are. There's a very good book, titled "The Hero with 1,000 Faces," that talks about the hero's journey. And as you go through, I take it you're familiar with it. As you go through the different phases of that journey, you enter the unknown world. You start off in the ordinary world. You get the call to adventure. You resist at first, and then you meet your mentor who encourages you and who's been through that journey and gives you the tools that you need. And eventually you enter this unknown world, which is very dark. You don't really know what, you don't really know what's there. You encounter new enemies, friends, allies. And along the way, the whole point of it is, not only for the purpose of achieving the elixir and returning to the normal world with the elixir, but the benefit of it is encountering your enemies. And being able to struggle with them, through your supreme ordeal, through the various stages of that hero's journey, until you're able to come back with the elixir. Now, that's a very mythical, explanation of what we all deal with as human beings, but we all go through a hero's journey. Our lives are hero's journeys. Your climb up Mount Kilimanjaro was a hero's journey.
Yes.
And so at the end of the day, what I find is that, sometimes going through that discomfort allows you to understand certain elements of certain blind spots that you might not have known that you have, that are both positive and negative, but it also allows you to understand your shadow. And certain elements of that shadow may be talents that you have that might not have been affirmed and acknowledged, that you've kept suppressed because you've not been rewarded for displaying those talents. And you find that in those situations, those talents may actually come in handy. And so it's very important, I believe, to be open to experiences that are uncomfortable, because it's oftentimes through those experiences where growth actually takes place.
That's the only place, in a sense, where growth plays. You can see on my banner, it says, "Become the hero you are meant to be." So I love the hero's journey. And
yes.
At the end of the day, and you can have all of the knowledge in the world, but it doesn't give power. The only power that comes with is applying that knowledge. And the only way to apply that knowledge is through circumstances, is through challenges, is through what happens in your environment. And that's the only way the hero can become stronger, is after the mentor and everything, is to go apply those strengths in the moment, but also then to face those demons, those internal little voice, that have been created through teachers, through friends, through people that is in here that is stopping you from that growth, but also then facing the world. Sometimes we have to face the world alone. There's not always anyone, because the thing is, if you go to an island, there you are. You can't even hide from yourself. So you have to face yourself. You have to make yourself stronger. So wow, you touched me through that, and that is powerful. And I hope there's a few young people that listens to this and say, success is created. You have to go and put in the work. Are you still a man of faith?
I am, very much so. I at the end of the day, I find it very difficult to embark on the challenges that I embark on without being able to express my trepidations, vertically. And when I say vertically, I'm talking about talking to God and basically telling him, listen, I'm not sure about what I'm doing, or, I just feel ill-prepared or underprepared for what I'm doing. At the end of the day, it's important to note that the only way for me personally to gain the courage to take some of the risks that I've taken over the course of my life has been for me to actually get on my knees and basically say, look, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't fully understand what I'm doing, and I'm handing it all over to you. I'm handing the consequences of the decisions that I'm making. I'm handing it all over to you. I'll do everything that I can and apply myself as much as I can. But at the end of the day, I'm leaving the outcomes to you. So it's something that I firmly believe in, and it's a philosophy that I've had over the course of my life, but it's a philosophy that has grown deeper and become more embedded over time.
Because that is where the magic lies. And this is what I tell people. Imagine it's being a farmer. You have a vision of a harvest. But to create the harvest, we need to lay the foundation. We need to work the land before we can plant everything. We have to take all of the weeds and stuff. And that is the early part of our years. Then we need to decide what is the seeds that we're going to plant, because it's important. And the way we plant it, we can't just plant it between the fawns and on the road. We have to basically plant it. But it also now depends on the seed. The different seeds will grow differently. Some seeds will be overnight and other seeds will be over a period of time. But then we have to plant those seeds, and then we have to daily look after that seed, give it water, talk to it. Now, the thing is, even if a drought is around us, and this is where God, for me, comes in, even if a drought is coming us, we need to ask for our dreams, for rain. God, I'm going to do this. This is my passion. Please send the rain. But God can only send the rain if you are willing to put in the work and do the things. And that's where the magic lies, because we're willing to plant the seeds when all signs around us tell us it's not possible. There's drought and all of this. You still went on and we still apply it and we still plant the seeds as if the rain is going to come. And this is where the magic happens. This is where the luck happens, where you talked about, I was lucky. No, you created that luck because of the faith you had and putting in the work and then letting God do the rest.
To support what you're saying, I conduct myself in a manner that says that, look, I'm not going to worry about whether or not I've got the resources to do what I need to do. If I need to do something today, but I do not have the resources to do it, let's say the money, for example, I'll still go ahead and do it. Even if at that point in time, I may be extending myself, or maybe doing this or that or the other, I will make a plan and I will do it. And the reason why is not because I am irresponsible or because, I want what I want now, or because I come from the microwave generation. I'm a millennial microwave generation type person. It's because I believe very firmly that at the end of the day, you're not going to have all the resources that you need to actually start something or to go to see something through. You need to start off with enough faith and enough belief that something is going to happen even before you've got the resources and the tools that you need to actually manifest that particular vision. So at the end of the day, if there's something that, if there's something that's on my mind that I can't sleep about at night, and that I have to do that, my conscience tells me, Vuyo, you will never forgive yourself if you don't do this. I will get up and I'll do it, even if I don't have the time, or even if I just don't have whatever it takes. I will commit myself to it. And what I found time out of number is the fact that end goal has always materialized one way or the other. I can't always explain the mechanics behind how those resources and those tools eventually became available, but they always have become available somehow. You gain assets that you didn't know you had. You gain allies that you honestly would not have expected. The least likely people that you'd have thought end up helping you along the way. And so many things around you end up conspiring to help you along the way. Yes, you face challenges. Yes, there are times when you want to quit. Yes, there are times when things don't go well for you. But the important thing is just taking those steps. And that in itself is the important thing. When I left home and just about every single time afterwards, whenever I faced a very difficult decision, my mother would quote Jeremiah 29 verse 11 for me and basically remind me that God had a plan for my life and that he had a plan for me to see a defined end. But at the end of the day, that end doesn't come by itself. And, it's important for us, as much as, we believe that God is there for us, if he is for us, who can be against us? As much as we say that to ourselves, we also need to keep in mind the fact that, God, our Heavenly Father, whoever we call him, is a busy man. Okay. And when I say he's busy, he's got far bigger things to worry about than the things that we can take care of ourselves. He's given us a brain, and the largest prefrontal cortex in all of creation on planet Earth, that has allowed us to create in our own minds and conceptualize in our own minds what it is that we need to be able to realize over time. We've got the tools, we've got the common sense we need, we've got the people around us, we've got the resources on planet Earth. Why are we asking him for things that we can do for ourselves? I'm not trying to say don't, limit your faith. I'm not trying to do that, but I'm also trying to say, the exercise of faith also requires the exercise of the mind. Some people are going to be very offended by what I'm about to say. And for those who are deeply offended by it, and I know that some of the people who are watching this will be offended, I believe that there's a very fine line between faith and stupidity. Faith requires the application of mind and the application of mind in a promise that's been given. Whereas stupidity, on the other hand, just involves doing something, thinking that you've been instructed to do it without any confirmation or any real thought process that goes into what you're doing and why you're doing it. So at the end of the day, one really has to be able to apply one's mind and understand the fact that it's rather prescriptive, but unlike most people, I do believe that there's such thing as a stupid question. I do believe that there are some things that you don't have to ask God for, or that you don't have to hope for, in a divine spiritual way. I do believe that there are things that you can do all by yourself. I do believe that there are some things that really matter in the bigger scheme of things, and some things that probably don't. So at the end of the day, one needs to be able to filter things appropriately and be able to understand the fact that, as a friend of mine says, we're not only, I do not just have a brain, but I have a mind through which I'm able to think critically. And that's the thing. We have minds. We don't just have brains. And we've got to be able to apply our brains enough or convert our brains into minds that help us to think and to think critically whenever we decide that we're going to actually stand on what we believe or stand by our principles. Because sometimes you'll find that people stand for and die by principles that in some cases are just stupid. I'll give you an example. This is far away from our shores, but the war against slavery, or the war for slavery between 1861 and 1865 is an example of that. People died for the right to enslave other people. That's a stupid principle by which to die on. You've got to be able to stand by principles that actually make sound sense in terms of their standing in the moral universe, if you will.
No, I totally agree, and I think that is important, and that is where we need to challenge ourselves. So here's my question: what is next for you? Are we going to see you as one of the next presidents of South Africa in the future?
I highly doubt it.
Why?
But thank you.
Come on, with a mind like that and dreams like that. Why not? You imagine you inspiring me so much today. How much you're going to inspire other people and changing around, because you have a mind, that can scare a lot of people, but also inspire a lot of people.
Well, that's a kind thing to say, but I highly doubt there's anything scary about my mind. I think my mind is very average at best. But thank you. I think the only thing that makes my mind appear the way it does at the moment, and that's only superficial, is the fact that I try by all means to develop it as much as possible. I try to take advantage of the opportunities that I'm given. I try to make the right choices, when provided with opportunities. And I guess there's no such thing as a right or wrong choice in the bigger scheme of things. They're all part of one continuum. But I try to make the best, out of every situation. In terms of what my vision is for myself, I think that this is too large a forum to be very, very prescriptive and descriptive. But what I would say is the fact that I what drives me every day is my ability to express myself and all of who I am as a human being. It is not enough for me to just get up in the morning and fly. It is not enough for me to just get up in the morning and talk to people. It is not enough for me to just get up in the morning and to study. It's important for me to express the totality of my passions, the totality of my talents and aspirations on a day-to-day basis. And for me, what drives me is service and being able to ensure that I'm able to add value to other people's lives. I'm not interested in being important, and I'm not interested in being being successful in the contemporary definition of being successful, but I want to be significant. And so I hope to be able to convert whatever I'm able to achieve in a manner that ensures that I am as significant to as many people as possible. I'm fortunate to have talents that make it relatively easy for me to inspire people. And I'm fortunate enough to be able to communicate to large swathes of people, fairly effectively. So that's, that in itself is a wonderful thing. But I would like to be able to apply my talents in a manner that ensures that I am able to serve people as effectively as possible. And so for me, my passion is service. And for me, what drives me every day is being able to serve people better and being able to serve on greater scales and being faithful in the service that I'm able to actually render to whoever that might be. Whether that might be, the person that walks up to me and asks me for a favor, or whether it might be something that might be lauded in the bigger scheme of things, that really doesn't matter. What's important is to be able to serve people and to develop my capacity for being able to do so better.
That's why I say you are the one. I won't be surprised if in a few years you are up there running for president of South Africa with a vision like that, with a mindset like that, with the love of serving people. It's not about being significant, it's about bringing change, and you are bringing change. Even if you think you're not impacting people, there will be people listening to this that will be impacted by your story. And so I definitely see you as an amazing leader. There's definitely a reason why you were head boy in school and studying the things that you are studying. It's just preparing you for greatness. It's just preparing you for that end goal of what you need to achieve. And I'm thinking, that's my challenge. That's what I do, is to challenge you. How big do you think you can? And maybe you need to raise that a little bit bigger, because imagine serving a country and changing a country around. Who knows? And may that dream foster. I don't know. Maybe I'm just planting a seed, but I will definitely vote for you, and you will have my vote because I love the way you think and I love the way you see the world. It's not every young person that does that. And I think this is the message. There's so many lessons, and we will type it out, and it will be part of the. For those who are, when they watch this and see this, everything will be at the bottom. But there's so many learnings. And that's why I asked someone, like you, Vuyo, and the other people that I interview and have a chat with, because people are so used to listening to people that are in the limelight, people that are celebrities or someone that is successful and they're always in the news. But people forget there's people out there that their job is not, you don't want to be on social media everywhere and putting how great you are. You're living it. You're living all of these principles that I teach and other gurus and, coaches, etc. teaches people. And yet here you are, you living it, you applying it. And this is why it's so amazing, this conversation, is that now I can tell people, what I'm teaching is, here's someone that is living it, that is living proof of applying all of that. And you bringing up that quote by Gandhi, you just made my day. If I saw you in real life, I would give you a kiss, man.
Thank you. That's very kind. And I'm very touched by your confidence in me. It really means, the world to me. And at the end of the day, who knows what the future has in store. I don't know what the vision for my life will be, in a few years' time. I know I know the visions that I have for myself right now are, and I know what I'm developing myself to become. But what's important is the fact that at this stage I really am open to the avenues that are available for service at this point in time. But what's really important is being able to take the various lessons that I've learned over the course of my life, and to take the relationships that I've built with people and my interactions with people like you forward in terms of being able to become a better person, on a day-to-day basis, and becoming the best version of myself I can possibly be, and serve as well as I possibly can. And that's all that I hope to do.
Wow. And the thing, in an hour's chat, this is the impact you can have. So everyone, just let me know what you think about Vuyo. Any last message you want to leave young people out there that has aspirations, that has dreams, something that you feel like, this is, apart from everything that we said, is there something, last words that you would love to share?
I am inboxed with questions and requests on a daily basis. I'm inundated with, requests, everything from, please send me overseas so that I can study, to, please, I need your help. Please make my dreams come true. Or, just the weirdest requests, to some of the requests that really touch my heart and really melt my heart. And what I'll say is that, your dreams will never come about naturally. They'll never come about easily. And unfortunately, we live in a world where it's too easy for you to give up on your dreams, and it's too easy for you to walk away from your vision, and it's too easy for you to walk into the script that's been written on your behalf, that you yourself had no part in drafting. And it's extremely important to note that there'll always be challenges in what you want to do, but you've got to stay the course. There'll always be things there'll always be blows and setbacks that will really discourage you, and that will really question the validity of what it is that you want to achieve. And it's critical to understand that those are not reasons to walk away from what you want to achieve or what you want to do. If, being a pilot happens to be a goal of yours, but that doesn't materialize and you wind up becoming something else, it doesn't mean that you failed. It's important to note that the career that you end up pursuing isn't the totality of what you can achieve over the course of your life. It's only a part of it. And so at the end of the day, there's a much bigger strategic aspect of your life that you need to be aware of, and understand the general overall direction that you want to move your life in and what you want to achieve. Your occupation is just a vehicle towards getting there. And so, as long as you're able to understand that, and as long as you're able to understand yourself well enough to know that when presented with certain opportunities that you might not always be excited about, just also keep in mind the fact that you're not always going to view those opportunities in the same way in a few years' time. And that those opportunities may also be opportunities to build yourself. Those setbacks may be opportunities to build yourself and make yourself a better person. And so that is something that I would want to leave a lot of young people with, is the fact that you can't be too prescriptive over where you want your future to go. As long as you understand what direction you want to take it in, you take the steps in taking your life in that direction and are consistent over the course of a long period of time, you will get there. It might not necessarily look identical to the way you wanted it to look, but you will definitely get there in time. That much I do believe. And Jeremiah 29 verse 11 applies to each and every one of us. It applies to 7 billion of us. And so, yes, I may be a pilot, and halfway around the world is somebody that's earning less than $1 a day, and 2 kilometers away from where I'm living is somebody in a shack. But at the end of the day, it's important to measure the progress that you have in life, or that you're able to achieve, not based on where you ended up, but based on where you started and how far you've been able to journey over the course of your life in relation to where you started.
I can't even add anything more to that. Everyone, Vuyo, my cover. Thank you. Me and my pronunciation. I just want to say from my side, thank you for making time tonight and sharing your thoughts and mindset. I really appreciate it. This hour is well spent, and it will be sent out, and I believe a lot of people will be impacted by it. I just got a message from a friend. He says, Quibus, that was an amazing chat. So I've just streamed this also live on social media so that you just know, but we will load it on podcast, and we will repurpose it, and we will send it out again. But for now, there were people watching now at the moment. Yeah. And everyone, you've just been inspired, and I hope you all take the lessons to heart, go out and apply it. I think that is the main thing. Everyone, become the hero that you are meant to be. Tonight, this was an amazing chat. Remember, go out to live without regret. Do whatever it takes. And remember, it's going to take a journey. So go and live and raise your standard every day. Make the best out of your life. So everyone, thank you. Have a beautiful day wherever you are, wherever you've listened. And cheers for now. So don't go yet, Vuyo. So we're cutting there, but I just want to stop the recording.
No